Hi again. Welcome to our fourth lesson in our virtual container garden course. So today we're going to be talking about maintenance. What is maintenance? Well, maintaining your garden consists of watching the plants to see how they're growing, fertilizing plants to provide nutrients, mulching to prevent weeds and regulate the soil temperature, and monitoring your plants for insects, pests, and diseases. So let's start with fertilizing. Plants need nutrients to grow, right? An umbrella rule is to fertilize when you first plant, which we did in session 3, at the beginning of the growing season when you're preparing your garden or your containers. We used a slow release fertilizer. When the fertilizer comes into contact with the water, small amounts of nutrients are released into the soil for use by the plant over time. So each time you water, the containers are automatically getting fertilized. You want to make sure that you read the package of the fertilizer that you purchase so that you can learn how often to use, but slow release should last you about 6 months. To avoid potential damage to your plant, you want to make sure that you water it first and then add your soluble fertilizer and mix it according to your package directions, and then make sure you water the plant again. And you do want to fertilize each new crop that you plant. Let's talk about mulching. Container gardens can benefit from mulching as well. You want to try to put a 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch on top of the soil. It's going to do several things for your plants. It's going to reduce the weed growth. It keeps the soil beneath it shaded, loose, and moist. So if the weed seeds do start to germinate and rise above that mulch, you'll be able to easily uproot it by pulling it. And mulch also keeps the soil moist longer. It holds in the moisture, saving and preventing the potting soil from drying out too quickly. Water does evaporate more slowly when the soil is covered with mulch, and it means also more water for the plants and less watering for you. And then mulch will also help the plants get through extreme weather conditions. In the summer, it can act like an insulator. It keeps the soil cool. Soil that's 1 inch below a layer of mulch can be up to 10 degrees cooler than the same unmulched soil, the same depth. So it keeps it cooler, warmer temperatures. Then also in the wintertime, it keeps the soil and the roots much warmer, so it can keep those roots from freezing in the winter. Let's talk a little bit about inorganic and organic mulch. Organic mulch is mainly made of plant or animal materials that were once living. This does decompose over time. It does improve your soil structure and quality by returning those nutrients to the soil. Organic mulch does need to be replaced frequently because it does decompose. And it does create habitat for pests, so we do need to change it out. Things that are organic are grass clippings, hay, straw, pine bark, pine needles, wood chips, pecan shells, and then you've got your inorganic materials. These mulches are a harder material. They do not decompose quickly or even at all sometimes, and some of them are made by human-made materials, and we really don't recommend inorganic mulch. These are things like gravel, pebbles, plastics, landscape cloth, maybe ground up rubber tires. While we don't recommend it, but if you are interested in just the looks that it can give your containers, then it might be right for you. Let's talk a little bit about diseases. So diseases in container gardens can take hold when the growing conditions are not optimal. Disease invades when the nutritional needs of a plant aren't provided. With container gardening, we control this a lot better. We can control the soil quality and the nutrients provided by fertilizing. Using good potting soil in the beginning and taking care of our plants can eliminate the fungus and the diseases. We can also learn how to identify some plant diseases by observing some common ones, which I'll show you in the next slide. The most common symptoms are that the seeds will fail to germinate, the stems of the young seedlings can turn black or die, plants don't grow normally, leaves are stunted or distorted in shape, they're wilted, they might have spots, or they die early, fruit or stems might have spots, decay, or be discolored, and then the stems can split and maybe even have some excess fluid in them. These are some common diseases in container gardens. These are typically shown on the top portion. These are mainly fungal diseases that can attack your plants. These typically occur in humid conditions when it's too cool or your soil's too moist. It can occur in shady places or even if your plants are too crowded. Anthracnose is one of them, the black spots, downy mildew, gray mildew. For these, we recommend that you remove the infected leaves and the branch tips and then maybe thin excess growth to space out the plants a little bit more and provide some more air circulation. But these are things that you can identify in your plants. It's probably a disease. On the bottom, these are more diseases, but they're not necessarily fungal. There's blight. It's a bacterial disease, and this is caused when the soil-containing bacteria is splashed onto the foliage. Then there's stem root rot. Just look for decaying on your stems. There's a mosaic virus. This is a plant disease. It'll look streaked and molted. And then there's powdery mildew. This is caused when the days are hot and the nights are cool and high humidity. So the mildew, it looks kind of like a powdery substance on top of your leaves. Oh, it's a key to remember that if any of your container gardens are exposed to disease, you want to make sure that you don't compost this foliage. Get rid of it. Also, avoid planting in pots that have infection prior to plant diseases also. And just make sure that when you are pruning your garden and you cut those dead or infected leaves off, you wash your shears between your cuttings so that you don't infect the rest of the plant. What about insects versus pests? Well, just like other gardens, container gardens also have to deal with the invasion of pests, right? Container maintenance means also controlling the pests as well as your diseases. The good thing is, because we water our containers often and our plants are nearby, we can often find these insect problems early and have the opportunity to treat the problems before they become a huge infestation. So pests do like to feed on garden plants. They're destructive to plants, and they can even destroy agriculture. Insects, the difference is they are not dangerous to plants. They are not destructive. Pests will damage plants in two ways. They'll chew holes in the leaves, the stems, the roots, the fruit, and then some will stick their beaks into the plants and suck out the plant juices. And pests can attack your container gardens all times of the year. Here are some common container pests. Aphids, they feed on the growing tips. There's caterpillars, these can be picked off. Mealybugs, they look like kind of white moldy spots, but they're little bugs. There's red spider mites, and then there's snails. These snails hide behind the containers in the daytime to keep snails out of your pot. We don't really see this that often, but you can apply 1 or 2 inch band of Vaseline around the container, the top of the container, just around the rim. There's also white flies, and these like to feed on the undersides of the leaves, so it's important to look underneath them. We can use pesticides to treat these pests, as well as we do in our garden, in container gardens, but you always want to wear hand and eye protection when you use anything. And a mask maybe, and try to spray on a windless day. And you want to apply it only to the infected plant areas, your infected leaves. Avoid the other areas that are healthy. We can make our own pest control. This is horticulture or insecticidal soap is often recommended in organic gardening, especially against these soft-bodied insects that we saw. To make your own soap, simply mix the following ingredients. You want to combine neem oil, we use that often, or a dishwashing oil liquid soap, but we want to make sure that it's a pure liquid soap. By that we mean something called Castile is a natural one. It's a natural soap, so they don't have added like degreasers in them or synthetic chemicals or bleach. And then you want to mix these ingredients with a quart of warm water, and then you can put it into any spray bottle, and then you spray it on the plant parts of the plants that need it. Mix only what you need for one-day application, and then discard what you don't use because it won't save. But remember, you have to hit the bugs in order for it to work. Beneficial insects. These insects that are beneficial include your dragonflies, your lady beetles, your praying mantis, and your spiders. And most spiders in your garden are beneficial, but avoid handling them unless you know which ones are harmless to humans. And then overall, just practice some good maintenance. Keep your plants healthy. Make sure you give your plants a required combination of sunlight, fertilizer, and water. Remove any of the dead leaves or flowers and make sure that they're spaced enough so that they have enough air to circulate around them. Remember that all bugs are not bad. Not all insects are harmful. In fact, many of them will eat the harmful ones. Healthy plants are just like us, so they can fight off pests better if they are healthy. Get rid of the infected plants. If you find a plant that's polluted with pests or disease, get rid of it, isolate it. Don't let it infect your other plants. While you treat this problem, keep it away from your other containers and your gardening tools that you work with. Make sure that everything is clean. So if you're replanting, it may be necessary to do it if a plant has outgrown its pot as well. So replant into a pot that's about 2 to 2.5 times the size of the outgrown plant, and it's going to keep you from having to do this often. But those plants need room for the roots to grow. And then also make sure that you clean your containers. It helps prevent garden problems. At the start of a new planting season, make sure you scrub that pot with liquid detergent water, maybe some bleach. Rinse them thoroughly and allow them to dry before you start planting. And also you want to at least clean your pots once a year with like a 10% bleach to water solution. That way you can make sure that they're clean every time you replant. Thank you for joining us for Lesson 4.